Tamara Monosoff, #1 Amazon bestselling author and creator of the Author to Income Formula. I'm thrilled to have you here because I'm just delighted to have our special guest, Nancy Congleton, who's the author of a new book called Autopsy of the NP, Dissecting the Nursing Profession Piece by Piece. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Autopsy of the NP. Now, Nancy has had 15 years of experience in the nursing profession, and she also has a specialization and degree in, I believe it's alcohol and substance abuse. And that's right. And then also you love to really coach other women who are interested in entering the nursing profession. Is that right, Nancy?
Yes, I love having conversations with people who are thinking about this profession and have questions and they want to get better prepared.
I love it because one of the things that you talk about is that nursing school prepares you, but not for everything.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that really excited me about this interview with you, Nancy, because, and by the way, Nancy's book is coming out today. And so one of the things that really intrigued me about Nancy's book is that she talks about the unexpected realities that come along for nurses and how, you can prepare so much with textbooks, but it's very different in the actual work environment. And so first of all, let's just hear from you, Nancy. What inspired you to write the book in the first place?
Well, I kind of have an OCD type personality in the sense that I want to be prepared for things. I like being prepared, know what I'm getting into, know what's expected, and then know how to carry it out well. And oddly enough, I want everybody else to be prepared. So that was my thing, was realizing that I just wasn't fully prepared for the profession, and then coming across nursing students that were doing their clinicals and realizing, oh my goodness, here's all these other people joining the profession years after I did, and they're gonna face some of the same surprises that I faced. And so my book is about helping give them the lowdown, so to speak, on this profession so that they're in a better position starting off than what I was.
I love that. And talk about, if you will, some of these unexpected realities. I think one of the things that you said that really interested me was that contrary to, many people's belief is that nurses don't just take orders from doctors and do exactly what they say, and for good reason, right?
Yes. So one of the things that I go into is that nurses have to think and act for themselves. So yes, doctors set the orders of what we need to do for patients, but then nurses, we do a couple of things. One is there are many times when a nurse has to stop an order or interrupt an order. So sometimes a doctor will prescribe an antibiotic, but it's actually the nurse's job to double check that antibiotic against a patient's allergies and make sure that they're not allergic to that. There's no contraindications to that. So there's been times in my own profession that I've had to stop and say, Dr. So-and-so, patient's allergic to this. What other medication would you like? And so that's one of the aspects, is just looking at all of those orders and saying, okay, yes, this is safe for my patient to have. Then the other aspect of that is being proactive. If something veers off course with your patient, stepping up and getting the doctor and saying, this is what's going on, what do you want me to do? And making sure that it's followed through with, and then documenting appropriately to cover yourself.
I think that's really interesting because it never really occurred to me that that was happening, that you're actually, because you're the one who's really monitoring over time, you're the one who's actually seeing and experiencing what that patient is going through. So that makes a lot of sense. One of the things I thought was interesting is that you talked about don't take what the patient says personally. Tell us what you mean by that.
Absolutely. So I've had patients love me, hate me, just not be sure what to even think about me. But we have to keep in mind that patients are hurting, they're scared, they're in a vulnerable place. So it's not always about the nurse, it's just a reflection of their insecurity or their uncertainty of what's going on, of how they're going to be, if they're going to be okay. And so I've just learned to kind of try to take those things with a grain of salt and not let it hit me at the core.
I love that because, having been a patient, and I think most of us have been a patient at one time or another, I think that that is so true, that we really are scared and we are looking to the nurse just for, comfort or knowledge. And I think that taps into something else you said is, we don't know everything, even though I think the patient and family members oftentimes expect you to. Is that true?
Yes, sometimes people do expect you to know everything. And just taking those situations and also being honest. There are times that a patient or a family member will ask me something, and it's honestly something that I don't know. But my response is, I don't know right now, but let me find the answer and I'm going to be right back with you. So just also being honest with them, they can see that and they appreciate that as well.
I love that. And so tell us about this one, about getting comfortable with bodily fluids and other squishy, gross things. I laughed out loud when I read that. But I mean, seriously, you've been handed, fingers and toes and things like this. And I'm sure that that was not mentioned in nursing school.
Yes, depending on which area of nursing you go into, then you're increasing your chances of having the gory details. So, but absolutely, and not being overly surprised in front of the patient. So, I worked in the ER for 5 years, and I had patients bring me some fingers and ice in a cup, and you just say, okay, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and you get the process going of what you need to do. So absolutely, kind of thinking about that in advance of, I don't know exactly what all I'm going to see or witness or be handed, but I've got to just keep that professional. Okay, this is the next step. This is what we do to take care of it.
I love this, and this is why I should not become a nurse, because as you were talking about it, my hair stood up on end.
How funny.
Oh my gosh. So clearly, that's interesting. You do have to have a certain personality to go into this. What would you say? I know that you can't make like a sweeping statement, but like I clearly could not go into that profession given even just what you just said. So, are there certain character traits that you think are necessary when you become a nurse?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is sometimes nurses don't have this at the very beginning, but they learn them. And some of that is just learning to think on the fly. Because the medical field is ever changing and it's so different from moment to moment, you never know what you're going to get or what somebody's going to say. So just learning to think on the fly and then being very resourceful, figuring out ways to take care of patients and meet their needs that are not always easy to come by. And again, sometimes you don't have that in the beginning, but you learn it. It becomes a part of the process.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that you talk about that I thought was really smart is to, if you're going into this profession, to take every advantage possible to practice. And you said something like, take every advantage of giving shots, starting IVs, witnessing a procedure. Talk about that. Why is that important? And is it often the case as a new nurse that are you standing like back, as you're going through training, or what compelled you to say this?
Okay, so the reason why I bring that out is during nursing school, at some point, the nursing students go out on nursing clinicals. And they have different clinicals at different areas. Sometimes they have a phase at a school as a school nurse, and then they have hospital nursing. So they have different combinations. But at some point, most of them end up circulating through a hospital, through different floors on the hospital. Most nursing schools also have a lot of homework, a lot of assignment that goes along with those clinicals. And I know this was something, as kind of like that OCD type personality, that was hard for me. I was worried about getting my homework done. I've got to go through this chart to get this question answered for this patient so that I've got my stuff done. But then when you're over focused on that, you can miss out on an opportunity to go follow a nurse and witness a procedure, or watch them start an IV, or listen to a doctor tell a patient some trying news, and learn the environment, learn how that's handled. So sometimes nursing students can get so wrapped up in getting the homework side of it done that they miss opportunities on their clinical days. And so I want future nurses to say, you know what, put that down, set that aside for a second. And if there's a nurse going to do something amazing, you go chase that nurse and you get that experience.
That is fantastic advice, because of course you learn the most from doing. It's not just textbook. So I think that's fantastic advice. Talk about the 12-hour shift, because most of us are thinking, are you kidding me? How can you do that? And does that make any sense? And are you going to be able to make good decisions going 12 hours? Talk to us about that.
Yes. And I will mention that not all nursing positions are 12 hours, but there's a lot of them that are. And so once you get used to it as a nurse, it doesn't feel like 12 hours. To me, it feels more like 8.5 or 9. On a really, really busy day, it might feel like 12. But some of the key things about that is you don't make plans afterwards. If you're doing a 12-hour shift, this is not the evening to say, yeah, I'm going to meet my friends for dinner at 8:15 at night and catch up. No, you're going to be exhausted for one. But the other thing is the nursing profession is unpredictable. And if another nurse shows up late, or you get several admits at once on the floor, or there's a code blue in progress, then you absolutely can't leave. And if you do leave when it's not time to leave, then you're looking at patient abandonment. And that's one of the legal issues that I go over. So the nursing shifts, you definitely want to be prepared for them. If you're working 12-hour shifts, have lots of quick snacks that you can grab quickly, because a 12-hour shift could easily be 13 or 14. So you need to prepare for it, both mentally and physically and nutritionally.
Oh, I love that, because you're really talking about having, really not just focusing on one aspect of your life, but getting the rest, eating well, and like the whole combination. I love that.
Yes.
Talk to us about, you said keep calm and nurse on. I love that. So talk about that, because you mentioned things like sometimes when you're first starting out, you have things that, you yourself are impacted emotionally from everything that you're exposed to, and talk about that, if you will.
Yes. So I've heard nurses talk about, especially during nursing school, all the weight gain associated with that first year of nursing school, and all the cram studying and the stress of the testing, and there's such a high importance on passing those classes and keep going. And so it can be emotionally exhausting. And then when you transition to a nurse, it can be emotionally exhausting as well. And so one of the things is just not to get too tied up or carried away with those fluctuations in life. If you gain weight, get it back on track, lose it. If you need to take a day to where you don't think about nursing, then don't think about nursing. Take that time out. And then also know that it's going to affect your family sometimes on occasion. There are times that I've had moments where I'm just irritable, and then I'm like, okay, I just had a really bad day, and it's not about anything with the family. It's just an exhausting nursing day. So just taking that time to also just separate yourself, go get a pedicure, get a manicure, read a book, make sure you're giving yourself a break from it, because it's a lot to carry when you carry it.
Wonderful advice. Talk to us about the upside of nursing. Like what, there's gotta be, what's the reason to go into nursing?
Oh my goodness, there's so many reasons to be a nurse. One of the things is that you truly get to help people. You get to make a difference in other people's lives. And there's a certain sense of reward or emotional paycheck that's just hard to explain, but it's well worth it, knowing that you're closing out your day and you've made a difference to somebody. And, I do talk about patients and sometimes family members making things difficult, but I also want to mention there's a lot of patients and a lot of family members that will hug you, will love on you, will pat your arm, and that just totally makes it all worth it. So there's the emotional part of it. And then also there's some very practical things as well. Nursing positions, they are day shift, there's night shift, there's the 3 to 11 shift, which is considered like a third shift. There's, Monday through Friday positions that are 8 to 5, like in physicians' offices or health departments. Then you've got your 12-hour shifts, which can be days or nights. And then you have all the different areas. So we're not all made the same. Some nurses really love pediatric nursing, and that's great because that's an option. Then you have other nurses that say, I love working in the ER. The fast, furious, bizarre, and different is my thing. So that's my area. So it's neat because if you get burned out or tired in one area of nursing, you can just go to another area. You're not retiring, you're not changing careers. You can just go work in another area, and it's almost like starting the process over. And for a lot of nurses, it's exactly what they need. They get maybe tired or bored, and then they go into something else, and it's like a brand new experience. So
I think that is amazing because that is not the case with most professions. I mean, as you're saying that, I was like, wow, you could switch it up your entire career.
Yes.
And have all these different experiences along the way. I think that's wonderful.
Right. Yes.
What do you see in terms of trends? Like, is nursing a career that is growing? Do you see any changes coming up in the future? Or what do you see in terms of trends, whether either nationally or globally?
I think the nursing shortage will probably continue. Most of the states, the nursing shortage is pretty severe. And I think it will probably that we will continue to have a nursing shortage. But I also know there's transitions in nursing practice in the sense that nurse practitioners are stepping up and filling some of those roles. And so that's kind of an interesting aspect, that there's a lot of practicing nurses that are going back to school and becoming nurse practitioners and then working on the side as a provider, as a medical provider. And so I think that's expanded the profession and opened up even more opportunities for nurses. And so that's a good thing. Patients benefit from that as well because there's more providers out there to take care of them. So those are kind of the main trends that I see right now. Is we still have a nursing shortage that needs to be addressed. We need more nurses. And then I'm very happy to see nurses that are working hard and even stepping up into higher roles.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. Can you hold up your book cover again so that everyone can see? It's so exciting. The Autopsy of the NP. Read it. What is the, here we go. Dissecting the Nursing Profession Piece by Piece.
Yes.
Available today on Amazon. So go grab a copy if you have thought about becoming a nurse, or you now are thinking about becoming a nurse, or also if you have any friends or family who have talked about this option and possibility, definitely grab Nancy's book. I love that your book is like a no-nonsense book that really talks about all of these real factors that, we probably would never even think about or consider, and that you've learned just by living it and your experience.
Yes.
So thanks so much for joining us today, Nancy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.